Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Ground Game Podcast. This is Justin Piche, one of your hosts.
And Clay Hepler, your second host. And we are here to talk about how to win the ground games.
You know, when we started this podcast, one of the visions that Clay and I shared was we wanted to be transparent, right? We wanted to share with other folks in the industry and folks that are thinking about getting into the industry that, you know, it is not all rainbows and butterflies and sunshine. It is not exactly like how the gurus pitch it. And, you know, earlier this week, I was kind of scrolling through my Facebook, looking at updates on some of our listings and just other random things. You know, you get sucked into that like Facebook media scroll sometimes. And I have so many ads for land courses or how to get rich on land or how to, you know, how you can turn land investing into your, you know, 6-figure side hustle and all these different things. And it just struck me again at how there's just this sales pitch that comes from folks in the industry to try to get you into kind of a coaching program or some sort of like course. And I just think a lot of that marketing is disingenuous. And this episode, the main topic here is we're going to talk about the things that are struggles in our business. You know, what are we dealing with? There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things on my mind. I'm sure there's a lot of things on Clay's mind. We're probably not going to get to everything, but we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about how we think about overcoming those challenges and those problems. Obviously, we'll get to our team building tactics. Clay's got a good one on how to praise your employees, which I think will be really good. A good discussion. And then a deal review at the end. So with that, Clay, you want to give an update on your quarterly goals?
Yeah, and let me just add really quickly to what you just said, Justin. I actually was scrolling on Facebook too. They got me too. They're good. And I saw in a lane group that I'm a part of, which I'm not really active in, like some guys like scamming some other guy who's scamming some other guy. And it really and really it becomes to me very interesting as an educator, and I know you're an educator too. How many educators are full of crap, and they're not actually, you know, like they get into the business and they're like, it's very hard. And, you know, you can make a lot of money in this business. You can build a multiple 7-figure business that's set your family up for financial freedom, or an 8-figure business, which is what Justin and I are both, you know, really aspiring to go towards, right? But there are so many people that are not transparent about the HUDs that they're doing. And I don't know many other people. There's a couple other people in the space that are actually transparent about like what's going on in their business in terms of like profit, HUDs, things like that. But there's a lot of people that hide behind really good marketing that are not going to be honest. And so we're gonna break open the business, both of our businesses today, and really talk about it. So talking about breaking open businesses, you know, where we are at with our goal for 720 right now in this quarter, which, you know, it's a hard quarter to get a lot of deals done. It's our last quarter, right? We locked up $250K in revenue over the last 7 days. So my sales guys went absolutely monster. And after a period of drought, if you're a longtime listener, you know that we went through a period of drought, and then it just comes, right? And that is the nature of this business. But we just locked up some big contracts, and we're going to talk about one of those today. But so that brings us up to, for our quarter, that brings us up to like 420 something for our quarterly profits, so quarterly projected profits. And we still have a month and a half left at this point with the filming of the podcast. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to get to 720, maybe 800K in projected profit by the end of the quarter. And if my sales guys are listening to this, turn it off right now and go back to calling people. Just kidding.
Dude, that's awesome. Congrats, man. Yeah, yeah, there's always slow weeks and fast weeks and slow months and fast months, and it's good that you got a bunch of stuff under contract here. For me, yeah, this last week we sold one property because mine is not pipeline. My target this quarter is not pipeline revenue, but realized gross profit on the sales side. Uh, and so we made 20 grand, 20 grand, $417.11 in the last week on a sale of a property. Actually, that's not true. We made 20 grand, and then we also sold another one that it's just not updated on my sales tracking sheet, where we made 19,000. So 40,000 of realized pipeline gross profit over the last week since we recorded the last episode. So that's great. Another couple other things. So I hired about maybe a month ago or so a U.S. based sales or acquisitions closer, and she's just awesome. Like she's awesome. You know, she's sent out a few offers, but her first few weeks have been primarily I had her audit our acquisitions team, audit our sales processes. She comes from a much deeper sales background than anyone else on our team. And she found a ton of things to just like improve on, which has been fantastic. We had a meeting and she's like, "Hey, I think this needs to be done differently. This can be better. This can be better." And then I gave her the mandate to improve those processes. And so one of the things I did when I hired her was tie some of her commission. She's commission only. She gets a large portion of commission for the deals she negotiates, but she also gets gross profit commission for the whole company. And that the purpose of that was to have her improve the existing processes that bring leads into her to negotiate and close. And so she's taken that mantle. She started offering sales training for the team. She's having one-on-one sales training with the team. She's focusing on our follow-up boss automations and action plans of what we do with the leads when they maybe aren't ready to sell right now or they're price motivated, et cetera. And I've just been super encouraged by, hiring and finding somebody who's really good, who's motivated, and then giving them the power to make change in the business. And we actually just had a discussion yesterday, and we both share a vision for what her role will morph into over the course of the next 6 months. So it's just really encouraging to hire somebody who's truly bought in at this point.
Dude,
So that's another kind of win towards that. Quarterly goal was really onboarding and training her up. But anyway,
I'm so pumped, man. That's really great. You really see the who, not how, is real. And when you find the right people in your organization, everything takes care of itself. And there's a lot of, especially when you're early on in this business, like you have the I can do it. If it is to be, it's up to me. And we have to shed that identity to empower the people that are in the positions. And I'm a sales and marketing guy through and through. Like, I sell my wife on, where we're going for dinner tonight, except it doesn't really work with my wife, to be fair. But I'm a sales and marketing guy, and I have a sales guy right now that's closing deals, and he's crushing it. And so I could be in that role, and I could be saving probably $200K a year. Or I could be doing other things, which is growing the business in different ways, focusing on more strategic decisions or building out a different department. And so that's that's a lesson right there for all of us. So I would like to bring that into the team building tactics, which is the TMT or TBT. It used to be TMT, but now
I like
it's
TBT.
TBT.
Team building tactics.
These are hard-hitting, actionable tactics that we are actually using every week to enhance, manage, and scale our teams. And this week, we're going to talk about praising employees. So, the praise, employee praise is actually a sensitive topic, okay? So whenever employees come into my organization, I ask them, how do you receive feedback? How do you receive praise most specifically? There is a book called The 5 Love Languages. And so everyone receives praise or appreciation or love, which praise is a form of love, in very different ways. Some people like bonus checks, commission checks. Some people like words of affirmation, quality time, and other things. The other two are escaping me at this point, but
words of affirmation.
Yeah, words of affirmation, quality time,
and there's
physical touch. I'm not touching any of my employees, guys. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's actually there's another book of the five love languages of the workplace.
Okay.
I think there's a different one, but it's along the same lines.
Got it. No, yeah. So long story short, with my employees, I always ask them, like, how do you actually receive praise? Some people really want to be pumped up, like salespeople. Are you kidding me? This guy just came back and he crushed it. He's been killing it this week. And other people, maybe in a different role, a more introverted role, want to have one-on-one feedback. Hey, you really did a good job, right? You really did a good job here. And these are the reasons why. And so what I want to focus on today is external versus internal intimate feedback. What I consider internal intimate is one-on-one feedback. External is in front of other people. And some people don't like the external feedback, right? And so I always like to ask permission for my employees to say, hey, where do you really receive feedback, and do you like to be praised in front of other people? Most people do, right? But I always like to ask permission. So when you're going to praise your employee in the future, make sure that you ask their permission whether they prefer internal one-on-one feedback or external feedback. And if they prefer both, you can do it to them as both in both ways.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think, I think it's really important for just company and team morale to celebrate wins, right? On another episode for the team building tactics, we talked about how I run my internal meeting, and how I end it every time is with 4 wins, just sharing wins that are happening in everybody's life. The praise aspect is another aspect, right? Highlighting what team members are doing things really well and giving them credit for that. It just builds like pride in your organization. It builds trust in the relationship. And yeah, I totally agree. I think both are important. And I actually have somebody that's told me explicitly I don't like external praise. Some people maybe are a little bit shy, but I think even the people that maybe are a little uncomfortable with external praise still appreciate being praised in front of others. Uh, yeah, that's a good one.
I
That's a
agree
good
with
one.
that, but I'm also a borderline narcissist. So aren't we all? So yeah. So
I went one quick anecdote, just quick story. So my birthday was this weekend on Saturday. Yep, happy birthday to me. 35 years old. I finally closer to 40 than I am 30 at this point. I don't necessarily feel it, but I still see myself in my late 20s. It's just maybe that's just something that people do as they get older, but think of themselves as younger. But we celebrate everyone's birthday on our team. We'll buy them a cake. We'll have somebody who one of their employees that lives in the same country deliver it, or we'll figure out a way to get it to them so that we can celebrate their birthday. And so my team did that to me this weekend. I probably paid for it. I'm sure I paid for it, but they did that to me. They sent me a cake and a little gift, a little mug that says tear. I should have brought it for the video. Tears of my staff. It was pretty funny. But one thing they did that really surprised me was they filmed a video. It was like 9 minutes long, and basically everybody on the team filmed a video of them kind of wishing me happy birthday, and it was really moving. Like it was just like it really like I almost choked up a little bit. I didn't expect it, and I think what I took out of that was just how incredible the culture we've built on this team is, and how people really like feel valued and care for one another, and praise and recognizing where your team members are contributing value to your organization is a key part of that, right? I was at dinner last night with one of my son's friends, his parents. So we're becoming friends with them. So they invited us over for a play day. We had pizza, hanging out, and the dad, his name's Steven, works in IT, and he was just talking about his boss. His boss is kind of an old school. He's the CIO at this company, and he does not give praise. Like he doesn't give a word of encouragement or anything like that. He's quick to tear you down, but he will never build anybody up. And I just felt so grateful that I'm a part of an organization where that is not how things work.
It starts by the example of leader, man. That's a reflection of you. Yeah. So I want to shift into a new segment of our podcast. So we're going to talk about challenges, and the structure of this is basically like entrepreneurial therapy, right? And so we're gonna we're gonna we're gonna talk through, hey, what's the core challenges or constraint in our business, and we're gonna ask each other questions to really help each other out and come to a solution. Now, if there's already a solution in place, we're gonna challenge the solution that exists, right? Because a lot of times we think that we're really smart in our own little worlds, and just having one outside perspective of someone else who's been through it. We talked about the payroll, the monthly payroll that 35, 45, 55, 75K a month, that changes you, right? It changes you. And so the same feeling that we have, and we're in the same boat. So, Justin, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I was trying to think what is my biggest struggles. And the first one that I want to talk through is I don't know if I have a good solution yet. So this might be a good one to just start talking through. This is more of like a personal related to business struggle, which is, I have been building this company now for more than 3 years. And it has given me a ton of freedom, right? I was able to go to Europe earlier this year for 2 months with my whole family, and the business just kept humming. I worked in the evenings for a few hours on the business, but it wasn't maybe like 3 hours a day on average of work, and things just kept rolling. And I would consider that kind of maybe a relaxed season by necessity, right? I just couldn't put in a ton of time because I was in this other place with my family, and we had all these things we were doing, and it wasn't possible, right, without staying up until the middle of the night or something like that. And so when I got back in the summer, there's a lot of chaos and of moving, we're building all kinds of stuff, but I've kind of like I felt a little behind maybe of where my goals were. And so I entered into what I would call a push season. And I've kind of been in that push season from essentially August through now. I'm still in it. And I personally don't think I'm really working all that much compared to many people who work, are gone at 7 a.m. and they don't get back till 6 p.m. Like I'm much more available. But one of the things I'm struggling with right now is just conversations with my wife about, how focused I am on this business and how present I am with my family when I'm not working. And just trying to, sometimes it feels like I'm carrying all these burdens of the financial success of my family, my team, the company, and I don't really, I don't offload really any of that to my wife. That's all my burden to carry. And so when things come up, where it's like, hey, like, can you end that call early? Can you do this? Can you do that other thing? I'm starting to feel in myself, not necessarily anger, but maybe a little bit of just being misunderstood, of like wanting to communicate to her that of course her and my children are by far the most important thing compared to my business. They're far more important than my business is to me, but I still have these obligations that if I thought I could skip them or push them off or not do them now, then I would do that. And I would, focus on the family at that point in time. And so it's just, I don't know. It's just kind of more of a personal struggle. And I think anybody who's married can probably relate to that type of a feeling. So I don't know if you felt that, Clay. I'm sure you have. Maybe you have some, yeah. What do you think?
That I mean, I appreciate your vulnerability, man. It's really, I think a universal struggle, for a lot of people that are in the position that you are. So I have a couple of questions for you, off the bat. So how do you define a push season? What are your kind of hours that you're actually working? So we can clarify sort of the.
Yeah. I mean, they're not really crazy hours. I generally I start my day at 9 on the computer. I might answer some emails in the morning, like before my kids get up, or sometimes I'm on my phone looking at like the things I need to do for the day while we're having breakfast or something like that. But really at 9 it starts and it goes till about 5 of just straight work.
Okay.
That's the hours I'm working. The problem is it doesn't stop. It's like when the kids go to bed, I'm back to like thinking. So maybe I'm back on the computer from like 8 to 10, or I'm doing something, and
Okay.
I would define a push season less of like hours worked and more of like mental energy.
Okay. So are you saying between 5 and 8 you're present, and then usually around 8 to 10, you're kind of getting back into it.
Yes. But I think my wife's main for like frustration or what she sees is that even though I'm there, I will still like my team is still working, right? And so I'm still responding to things. I see something, I'm like, oh, I got to send this email, and I catch myself sometimes, and I'm like, okay, this can wait, but I don't want to wait. I want to do it right then and there, and I don't. Yeah, I want to do it right then and there.
I get that on a spiritual level. How many other entrepreneurs are you close friends with? And how many other entrepreneurial wives is your wife close friends with?
Oh golly. Not close, like we hang out with and spend time with. We have one really, really close friend in Washington whose company the sweatshirt I'm wearing, Joy Inc. is his company. Who him and his wife definitely relate very much to these struggles. But that my wife is really, really good friends with his wife. They best or maid of honor at her wedding, and I know they talk at some frequency and share in those struggles. That's pretty much it. Nobody else that are of our close circle is an entrepreneur. Hey guys, this is Justin Piche, one of your hosts of the Ground Game Podcast, interrupting your podcast to just say, hey, if you're getting value out of this, if anything Clay and I are talking about is resonating with you, if you're struggling and you want to vent, let us know in the comments. Let us know what you're struggling with. We would love to address that topic in a future podcast episode. So we appreciate all the listeners. We appreciate the reviews. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Mm-hmm. So I would say we all kind of know the answers here, but having a very clear shut-off time is the antidote to this, right? And so, at least for me, I work 6 to 6:30 every night, right? And but when I'm done, I'm done. And my wife actually knows that, right? And I actually work like my push season is like I'm up at 5, right? And I'm working 5:30 and I'm working. And then, I don't have kids your age though, to be fair. Like, your kids, there's sort of a different like you have to be 6, 7 or 6:30 to 8, right? Or 9 or whatever.
Yep.
So it's kind of, I'm in a little bit of a different, I have a 7-month-old and you have a lot of different ages. But I think that that's probably the biggest thing. Like when you're there, you're there. And when you're not, you're not. And sort of there's this let me tell you a perfect analogy that what I use. Okay. So when I go into the gym or when I go into my office, you see this office behind, there's this little door behind me. I have this mental barrier. I learned about this from Andrew Huberman, who had this like performance coach on his podcast, and he calls it the line. When I step into the gym, I'm working out, right? I'm going there and I'm killing myself. I'm working out hard. I don't have to be there for an extraordinary period of time, but I look around and I see people on their phones texting. I sneak a text every once in a while, right? Someone calls me, whatever. But I have a line. And so I have a line in my office. And so when I cross in here, I'm focused on my work, or the gym, I'm focused on my work. And so you could maybe have this like hypothetical line that you say, whether it's like time-bound line or actual physical location line, that you're like, dude, this is where I'm at. And I know that you're in a new space right now, so that could maybe throw off your schedule a little bit. But having those like
you can see my bed behind me, right?
Yeah.
I am in this rental as our house is being constructed. But I'm tracking with what you're saying.
Yeah. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is. And maybe we just need to be clearer on communication of like, what are those lines? But then the alternative is like, I personally probably need to respect those lines, more the timelines, I think, than anything. Of like when I'm with my kids, like I need to just put my phone on do not disturb or something like that. That's probably the key, because I feel like I do a pretty good job. It's not like this is like a constant thing. I'm not like sitting on my phone all the time when I'm with my kids. We're playing, etc. But I have my Apple Watch, like an email comes across and I'm like, oh gosh, that needs attention right now. And I jump into it
Yeah.
type of thing.
Dude, I've heard people go as far as like having Tupperware with timers that they put their phone in Tupperware overnight and they like have a timer. It's like 8 hours. They don't use their phone or the Apple Watch or whatever. And so they can be present with their family. And sometimes we need that type of, even though we think we're these awesome entrepreneurs with crazy discipline, sometimes we actually need that external pressure from something like that, putting the phone in the other room that we do, the habit or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. And it's not anything I haven't heard or considered. It's more of just like actually doing it. Like there's a difference between knowing what to do and then actually doing it. So I think that's encouraging to just maybe be more. It's really just it's really about discipline. That's really what it is. It's a lack of discipline with not setting clear boundaries and actually adhering to them. Right? I set boundaries with my kids all the time, and they break them, but they're kids, right? I'm an adult man. I should be able to set and adhere to a boundary that I set for myself.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't make it any easier, man. And that's why a lot of times these conversations, and you and I talked about this, one of the reasons why we started a ground game was actually because these conversations are not being had. And everyone could talk about consistency in their business. Everyone could talk about executing on the tasks in their business, but sometimes they don't actually need the intervention in their business. They need it somewhere else in order for them to succeed in their business, right? Maybe the restrictions of time that you have will enable you to be more focused on the time that you have in your business.
Yeah. Yeah, man. How about you? What's popping to mind? Big struggle.
I would say I have two struggles that are present with me. One of them is getting it's a problem-based struggle, and the other one's an opportunity-based struggle. So, I think of in my business, there's sort of questions that need to be answered at all times in our business. And a lot of times we get distracted by the opportunity question. Should I add subdividing to my list? Should I add entitlement deals to my list? Should I become the biggest wholesaler in Florida? All these are these are opportunity-based questions, and this is why people fail, right? And so there's the problem-based question, which is fix the system as it sits. And so that was just me procrastinating I was just saying that to procrastinate to go to the actual problems. I'm
Yeah,
just
no, I
kidding.
totally get it.
So, by the way, the podcast is over now. No, so I think the biggest problem for me now in my business is actually the dispositions. And I don't know if it's a time-based thing or um, just the structure of the disposition strategy. This is a recent thing for me. Recent being a month or two old. And we're still struggling with selling our deals. And we've done a lot of different things like implementing owner financing and selling notes. I actually just sold $50,000 worth of note. So that'll be a nice little check for us here in the next 1 or 2 weeks. And that we owner financed. But there's a lot of other deals. I mean, we probably have $450,000, $500,000 of actual straight profit deals that could close within the next 1 to 2 months. And they're just have been sitting on the market for a very long period of time. So there's a couple of things sort of like it's price bound or also is it the agent? But that's why we brought the internal disposition process. So there's a lot of questions that I think the experience will lend to me, right? Doing this, building out the system and process. I'm like, okay, we can actually review this, what's working, what's not working. But I want to get there faster, right? And so the dispositions thing, the problem is, how do I know what's working? How do I know what people I should hire in order to fulfill this role? And is it my highest and best use of my time to focus on this? So I don't know if I gave you enough context to really talk through this with you, but that's something that it's like, I got a lot of profit that just ain't selling as quickly as I'd like.
Yep. Yeah. Are these a couple questions, are these deals that are owned in inventory? Like you've taken title, they're yours,
Oh
or
yeah.
they are
Oh
many of
yeah.
them double?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a couple that are double closed, but a lot of them are like subdivisions that, I bought a parcel and subdivided
Yep.
three or, 4 or 5 parcels, and the last one isn't selling and it hasn't sold for months. A lot of them is like buying I bought a, a subdivide or, 5 lots and combine them into 2 lots, and now they're not selling as quickly because they're on kind of a slope. And so there's a lot of stuff there that is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. First, maybe it's things that I like to think about. Not, this is, probably a lot of these things, but sometimes it just helps to have somebody else say them to
Mhm.
you. Uh, the first is when I have parcels that are struggling to sell, I try to figure out, is there anything else I can do to them for as low a cost as I can make it to make them more marketable? That's kind of like my first thought is like, are these properties nicely accessible? Is there a cleared home site? Like, what are the barriers? And a lot of that comes from like, what are the barriers based on the feedback you've got from your agent? And to be fair, you already said it, right? The internal sales process. We did episode 8 that we just launched, and we're getting some really good feedback on, where we interviewed Brian and talked about the power or the superpower of an internal sales team. I really truly believe in it, and I think it is one of the best ways to know why your properties aren't selling. In my experience, it's really hard to get good feedback from realtors. Like, they are generally not the most organized folks. And if there's realtors, listening, this is not everyone. So you might be the most organized person that can get incredibly good feedback to all of your clients and tell them all the listings that are showings that you've seen and all the texts that you've had and give feedback on the property. But my experience is that a lot of agents don't do that very well. And so it's hard as the owner of the property who's selling the property to know what are the struggles of the buyers that are coming and checking out these properties, and how do I overcome them. So maybe the first step is, hey, talk to the agent and help figure out what are the pitfall, or what are the things that people are giving feedback on that are preventing them from actually buying these properties, and then try to fix them for the lowest cost. And it might be just clearing work. It might be cleanup. It might be a new drone shoot. You're already doing owner financing, which I think is super. That is one of the better ways to move properties quickly and move inventory quickly, is make the barrier to entry much lower for people. Instead of coming up with $70,000, they can come up with 15 to get the property down. Um, and then, yeah, man, I think the other marketing channels, right? Facebook, that's a huge one. Generating a buyer's list and actually being able to market to those folks. Um, Taking a lick on price to move the cash quicker. Sometimes we want to protect our margins, but I mean, sometimes it's worth making 30% or 40% on a deal if it releases that capital for other opportunities that are coming in the pipeline. Just realize some profit now. I think Justin Sleva and Adam Southey on their podcast probably a year ago or so, they did one that was called, I think it's just like, just take the dang deal, I think is what they called it. And it was all about like, when the markets are slow or properties are moving slow, if you get an offer that is even remotely workable for you, just take the deal. And sometimes I don't take that advice. And here's a perfect example. I had a deal that we bought at like 70 all in, listed at 150, had a cash offer relatively quickly at 120. And so we were like, and it was workable. I mean, that would have been maybe a $45,000 profit on a $70,000 investment. Not stellar, but still a pretty good profit on a deal. And we were like, no, we've only had this listed for 3 weeks. Let's just wait. Well, now it's been 3 months and we basically got the same offer and we've accepted it now. But that's 3 months of waiting on a deal to sell, to just accept an offer that we could have had 3 months ago. That's less turns on that cash. That's less opportunity with that cash. Um, do you feel like you struggle with accepting? I mean, do you get lowball offers that you can still make money on, and then you're like, nah,
I
I'm not
think that
gonna
that's
take that?
definitely a good, um like I just got a deal. We just bought a deal for 400, and I have investors in the deal. We were all in probably like 425, and we got an offer for like 540. And I'm like, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it, right? And you make maybe 70, you get after all the fees and stuff, maybe less, and then you have to split the profit. All of a sudden you're like, dude, I'm selling this thing for 500 something thousand. I'm going to make 30K on it. And so that was for me. I turned that offer down because it's listed for like 680, right? Because we're like, we think we can probably get at least 600 for it, right? Um, but I think that I definitely struggle with that. At this point, I would take the dang deal, right? Let it go and drop price
Yeah,
precipitously to recycle that cash quicker. But I think for the longest time, I just kept the numbers high. And what I realized is like real estate brokers aren't going to be the one to tell you to drop it.
they're not going to drop it. No, they don't want to drop it. They don't want to hurt their other comps. They don't want to. I asked Brian the other day about he's brought me a property. He's like, hey, I don't know if this one's not moving. What do you want to do? And I literally said, I was like, what does our realtor think about the price drop? And he messaged me back and he goes, I can already tell you what she thinks. She's not going to want to drop the price. And it's a perfect example. No broker wants to drop the price of properties. They just don't want to.
Do you have
But yeah, man,
do you have a
sometimes you just got to take the
protocol
deal.
for how you drop prices, how quickly you drop prices?
Yeah. So we pre-market before we take title. We're marketing these deals. We don't drop price during pre-marketing. Right. So, if you're double closing, obviously you're going to drop price to try to bring your buyer in. We will set a price and we'll hold it there through pre-marketing and gather feedback from folks. And then when we list on the MLS, if we've got a lot of showings and views and good feedback, when we go to list, we'll keep the same price. But if we've got feedback or not very many views, or people are like, it's too high, we will list on the MLS at a reduced price right off the bat. Because when you list something high on the MLS, it does scare people off. I mean, I still feel, even though I know that everything's negotiable, I will see an on-market deal that is a potential subdivide, and I'll see the price they're asking, and I'll know that it's a good subdivide, but I'm going to have to offer 40% less than what that is. And honestly, most of the time, I just am like, nope, I don't even make the offer. And if I'm doing that, and I know that these deals are negotiable, and I've made offers at 40% off of asking and had them accepted, and I still struggle with getting over that mental burden of like, I don't want to insult them and deal with that conversation, be told to go get lost or whatever. The layman who's buying your land, they feel that way more acutely.
Yeah.
Way more acutely. So
How do you define pre-market? Let's just clarify that. So are you?
yeah, for us, pre-marketing is like we get a property under contract. We get our drone videos. We do our due diligence. We get our title commitment, and we make sure we're going to be able to transfer title and sell this property. We determine, can we list this places and start to market it without, maybe pissing off the seller or something. Like we have in our contract that we can market and like we can get people out there and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times we're not explicitly communicating like we're going to market and sell this property exactly to somebody else, and that's all we're going to do with it. And so we don't list on the MLS because that's like a surefire. We don't put paid ads behind it, but we'll put the properties on Marketplace and Facebook groups, on land.com, and start generating buyers leads. So that for us, that's pre-marketing before it's actually like hours to sell. I call that phase pre-marketing. And then once we own it, now we're actually marketing to sell. It's everywhere. At that point, I don't really care if we, it's not that I don't care if we piss off the seller, but it's like, it's my property now and I can do whatever I want with it at that point in
For
time.
sure, for sure, for sure. Okay. And I interrupted you. You were going to add some additional stuff
But
to it.
price drops, yeah, you're asking if we have a framework for price drops. This is something we have struggled with, right? I think we've also struggled with holding prices too high for too long. And so on our sales side now, we have a process where we basically we're going to drop every 2 weeks, depending on interest. It's really like an interest base, right? If we're having 3-4 showings a week on a property, we're not going to drop price. But as soon as the inquiries and showings start to drop off, every 2 weeks, we're dropping the price by some amount. And sometimes it's not much. Sometimes it's $1,000. $150,000 property will drop to 149, 147. But regular drops so that people can infer that we're motivated to sell. And it'll pop the listing back up in all the realtors kind of like queues of properties in the area. They'll see, oh, this is just recent price drops. It just gets more visibility on the property. And so regular price drops is a key part of our sales strategy.
Okay. So you basically drop it every 2 weeks, but there's not like a percentage drop that you do.
No, yeah, it's more of a, I don't have hard and fast rules because we're in such disparate markets that are so different from one another that I can't use a blanket rule. You know, if we have a high sell-through rate market, a high demand market, and we're up at market price, or on the high end of where we really think we can sell it, and we're getting a ton of interest, we give our realtors pretty clear guidance of like, hey, we have no attachment to this property. We just want to make money. Like, we just want to make a revenue or return on this deal. Any offer that anyone wants to submit it. Like, we'll counter, we'll negotiate. Like, that's what I would encourage any person that comes to see this property. We tell this explicitly to our realtors: make an offer if you like it. Even if you think it's going to be low or whatever, make your offer. Like, you're not going to frustrate or make the sellers angry. They don't care. They're going to look at it and they're going to counter and they're going to tell you what they can take. And if you guys can come to an agreement, great. But yeah, we definitely tell them all that.
Okay. Is there anything else you think that I'm missing here that is
I mean,
besides
I think it. I really think an in-house marketing and sales team that is listing those properties in places that are not the MLS, primarily Facebook. And it's a lot of work. We all know it's a lot of work. It takes somebody to actually do the work, but I really think your business is certainly of the size where you should probably do that. If nothing else, to grow that buyer's list. I mean, just quick anecdote. We just sold a property to a guy on our buyer's list that we didn't even have to market because we had him in our list. He reached out. He's been in our buyer's list for over a year. He's reached out on 7 properties that we've listed. And we finally got one for him to get. We just marketed directly to him because we knew he wanted this area of this acreage size. We didn't have to hire a realtor. We didn't have to pay realtor commissions. We're just bringing it it's like within a week of us taking title, we got it under contract to sell to this guy. And that happens more often than not. I mean, it's not more often than not. Let's be clear. We sell most of our properties on the MLS. That's the majority, maybe 55%, something like that. The other 45% is in-house from our efforts alone. No realtor efforts.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I mean, that's a big one for me. Just like, when you have that much profit sitting on the books, dude, for a long period of time.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna call all my brokers after this and say, let's rip it. Let's rip off this Band-Aid.
Yeah, I did that. I did that too with a property. My last lot in a big subdivide. I texted him. I'm like, I'm ready to auction this thing off. I want it gone. Like, it's all profit. We've already paid the bank back, paid all the investors back. Everybody's profited about 80-90% on their cash return already. The investors. This is the last lot. It's all profit. Let's go, man. What are we waiting on?
Yeah.
But
I'm with you. Okay. So, I mean, the next thing is an opportunity. And I think this is, to be fair, like, this is not an immediate thing, but I actually am bringing this to your attention, really, for the listeners, because I understand sort of the approach and have a very clear plan to do this. But it is when you are starting to get opportunities regularly in a specific marketing channel, what is the pivot moment, right? The pivot to going to, whether it's, hey, I'm going to from rural recreational tracts to infill because I want to bring up more volume and wholesale more deals. I want to go from rural to subdivide or rural to entitlement, right? Which is a completely different beast. And so what I'd like to just talk to you about is how you think about the adding additional marketing channels to your business, specifically longer term marketing channels. And I know you and I have something going on in the background right now that, we're working on together. But how did you think about transitioning to larger opportunities in your business or another opportunity into your business? And when did you know financially that it was the right decision?
That's a great question. I've always been of the mindset that this type of business is kind of like steps and stages. And but I've never thought that I should get rid of anything we are already doing well. So when I think of adding new kind of opportunities, and maybe like a good example is going from flips to subdivides as one that's probably like accessible and reasonable to our audience. Another one might be from like regular style subdivides up to entitlements or major development type stuff. That might be another really big kind of step change in somebody's business, for example. I do not think it is a wise decision to completely pivot the business. I think what is a much better goal is to work yourself or hire yourself and put the processes in place to move yourself out of the that first part into the next part. So for me in my business, what it looked like was, okay, we primarily were doing flipping, and I was very involved in comping and giving final approval to purchase deals, and very involved in setting sales prices and things like that. And then we started subdividing, and we just started getting way more inventory and getting more opportunities. And so I didn't have the bandwidth to advise on those prices for the flips anymore, comping them, verifying them. And so I had to make sure I empowered my team and had the process in place for them to make those decisions and get things under contract and move them through the pipeline without my direct involvement in all of those decisions. And then the same thing has kind of happened in subdivides where we have so many of them working. I can't be the project manager anymore on all these deals. If I was, I would be doing nothing but calling contractors and surveyors and following up on things. And I just don't have the time to do all of that. And so I had to hire somebody who could manage projects and who I'm teaching to underwrite, so that I'm kind of working my way out of that part of the business as well, so I can continue to focus on maybe this next opportunity that you and I are discussing, or building out the coaching business and helping other land investors scale their businesses, or this podcast, which is a passion project of sorts. I very much look forward to our conversations each week. And this takes time, right? This takes energy, this takes mental focus, this takes money, and all those things are time that are taking me away from the inner workings of the business. And so I need to make sure that the people and processes are in place to work without me in them. And I think for you, it's probably going to be the same type of thing. Is look where you are still involved in those existing processes. Do not kill the golden goose. Implement the other things. Put more of your time and energy in that other opportunity when you've got the people and process in place to handle the current workload or the current kind of trajectory of the business.
Mm-hmm. So my one question that I have, and then we can move on to the deal deep dive and wrap up the podcast. For the listeners, like just from moving from one thing to another, were you consciously targeting subdivide opportunities as they came to you because now you're overwhelmed with subdivide opportunities, or were you like, hey, I'm casting this very wide net, and that organically brought it to? Because I see a lot of people that are like, as you say, they don't focus on the problem, they focus on the opportunity, like I mentioned earlier. And so they're like, okay, I'm just going to add this opportunity. And then it takes so much mental energy for them to add the additional channel, which is subdividing, versus what they should have done, which was just focus on the main thing, the golden goose. Does my question make sense?
Yeah, it does. So when I started implementing subdivides, it was both of those things. I was both seeking them out, like only, so spending time and energy mainly underwriting on market deals, and also with that skill set, evaluating every property that came in through our normal marketing channels as a subdivide. So we were taking advantage of the opportunities that we were already generating in our existing pipeline and seeking out new opportunities. And as that's morphed now, we're going to we've gone to mailing and marketing specifically to subdivide opportunities. We're still doing cold calling for general flips and as subdivides come across our desk, but we're not targeting cold calling specifically to subdivide opportunities. We're targeting cold calling to essentially any property. The mail marketing now has shifted to almost solely focused on developable opportunities. And so that's a whole different kind of analysis of what data you're pulling, what properties you're targeting. It's different marketing, it's different conversations. A whole part of that is bringing on the US based closer who's fantastic, who can talk to these more sophisticated owners about their property and work to negotiate those contracts, right? That's kind of but it's not like I let go of my existing team. They're all still working, and they've all scaled up the flipping side as well, right? And they've scaled up the off-market lead gen as well. But now we just have introduced this other portion of the business to take on specifically subdivides.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's important for the listeners to know. I was writing this morning. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because it's the problem for me. I think it was a bit of a problem discussion or a problem that we were dealing with, which is we are not taking advantage of all of our opportunities. Right, we're not taking advantage of all of our opportunities because we have one tool, and it's a flip. That's our only tool. So that was the problem: is we're spending a lot on marketing, we're generating what could be good opportunities, but we're not taking advantage of them because we only have one tool. So I kind of approach it from that perspective, not necessarily, oh, I'm going to chase after the subdivide opportunity, but more like, how do I solve this problem, which is I'm spending money on marketing and generating leads, but not able to convert them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is how it should be, versus I heard these guys talking on a podcast about subdivides. It's this like meme that I made the other day. It's like, do you remember the Halloween meme, right? The Halloween meme?
Yep.
And it was like, month 1 learns about land investing. Month 2 commits to commercial land investing development. And that's how most people do it, and that's why most people aren't successful, right? And you and I have had the privilege of getting beat up a little bit, and so we've been able to see like what strategies actually work. And the measure of an entrepreneur is not that this person's necessarily works harder than you or smarter than you. In a lot of cases, it's just that they are focusing on their limited resources better. They're allocating them better to their outcomes. And a lot of people, I think, just focus on the work component. They don't focus on the leverage. So that was really, really helpful. And I hope this section was helpful for our listeners. Guys, if you got benefit from this section, please leave us a comment below. Make sure that when you rate, review, and subscribe, you just add that comment there. And so we're going to transition to the end here, which is the deal deep dive. So the deal deep dive for us this week is I'm purchasing a 34 lot subdivision. So it's a pre-existing subdivision. We've been negotiating with this seller for quite a while. Essentially, we're purchasing these lots for about $9,500 per lot, and the lots range from 3/4 acre to like 3 acre lots. Basically, this guy developed this subdivision, really nice subdivision years ago, and we can approach it in two ways, right? We can finance it, which we're currently under due diligence, by the way. We can finance it, and sell off the lots one by one. That would probably be the way for us to make the most amount of money. We think we could sell the lots between 20 to 30 per lot. So it gets really exciting, right? It's anywhere between a $300,000 to $500,000 profit deal. But it's going to take longer, right? So the absorption rate in this market is not massive, and we were talking about this earlier. Like, two birds are in one hand, or I don't know what the saying is. I forget the saying, but selling these parcels quickly. If
one bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Yeah, one bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. There you go. And so for this deal, we're actually contacting local builders and developers. By the way, if you know anyone in Montgomery, Alabama, that is a builder and developer, or Sheboygan County, Washington, or Wisconsin, let me know. We got developable track up there too. 25 acres.
Is this one in Montgomery?
Montgomery.
This stuff is, yeah. I actually have a deal that I bought in Montgomery County that was obviously the next extension of a small lot subdivision, but never got developed. That we picked up that we're just starting to market.
Oh, cool.
As well.
So what we're doing now is approaching builders and saying, hey, we'll give this to you piecemeal. We'll sell it to you 15 a lot, right? And kind of get it off our books, and you still make 150, 180K, but we get it off our books before we actually close. And so that's kind of how we're approaching it. I'll keep you guys posted on exactly what the end result is. for that, but we might just go to a local bank, finance it, and then owner finance it to people, and sell some lots cash, owner finance over time. There's so many different things that we can do with it, but we got it for a really, really attractive price, and it's a great lot subdivision, and so we're really excited about it.
I got a question for you
Yeah.
on that deal. How many total lots are in the whole subdivision? Is this every single lot that's in the
Oh,
development?
no. It's probably like 70 lots, 75 lots
Okay.
in the subdivision. Last year, 3 lots sold. A builder came in and built them. This has just been basically this guy developed the subdivision, and he's been holding on to this for a long period of time. He's trying to divest of all of his properties, and he's gotten offers over the years. He's just never sold them. So yeah.
Okay. And this was the only genesis of that question was like, what are the restrictions on it? And if you're buying a meaningful percentage, you may be able to amend if there's an HOA or restrictions. You may be able to amend the restrictions or HOA to make your lots more marketable. That was just a quick thought that came across my mind. But if it's less than half, it's probably not something that you're going to be able to do.
Okay. That's a great thought, man. So that's a deal, deep dive. And so again, the way that we can exit it is sell it to a builder, developer, sell it on the market piecemeal, or every each individual lot. But there's a lot of different things, and what this always kind of shows you is, it's just as much effort to get a big deal than it is to get a little deal. And when there's multiple six figures potential profit, and if we really hit the cover off the ball, $500,000 of potential profit, it that's massive. And this guy, we followed up with him for 2-3 months, and he finally worked with us. It wasn't like he came in and we closed it. So those deals, sometimes the hardest deals are the ones that really yield the biggest profits.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. I've never bought that many lots at once out of a subdivision. I'm usually the one creating lots like that. I've never done 36 or 35 though. We've done 20, 25 is the most I've done in a subdivide.
Guys, if you're an active listener of the podcast, at the end here, the gentleman's agreement is, if you've gotten benefit from this podcast, we've been seeing some really great actual Q&A questions, which we're going to be hitting a Q&A here in a couple of weeks. And so those YouTube comments, the reviews, the reviews in our Apple Podcast, Spotify, really give us that Q&A that we need to bring that value and focus on future episodes. So if you want to leave a comment below, of course, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like it, and we'll bring all the value of what you guys are specifically looking for to future Q&A episodes. Justin, anything to add before we sign off here?
Nothing to add. Just maybe, you know what? One thing, just encourage the listeners, be like, hey guys, I just want to say to everybody, guys and gals, whoever's listening, there are other people that are struggling with the same things in your business that you are. There's whole communities of them. So if you're not a part of some sort of group of investors, if you're not part of any kind of investing community, go out and seek some other folks out. Entrepreneurship can be a lonely business, land investing specifically, and it makes it a whole lot better when Clay and I can come together each week and give each other advice on the struggles we have in our business, and then just working with other land investors that are struggling with similar things. Collectively, I think there's already been a solution. Like somebody's already thought about that solution. You just need to find out who it is and get that advice from them.
I love that, man. On that note, thanks for listening as always, guys, and we'll see you next week.